Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of KickSaga. This is the series where I interview first-time board game creators right before they're about to launch their projects on crowdfunding, and then we'll follow up with them right afterwards to see how everything went. So today, I'm really excited to have a duo with us, a married couple, Matt and Savanah Mundy. They're here to talk about Flock Together that they are releasing under the Sea Cow Games brand. How you doing, guys?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. So I was introduced to you by our mutual friend, Mr. TK Edward King, and the folks over at Galactic Cruise. And I had seen your game art being shared every now and then, and so I was aware of the game. But I wasn't aware of how well it was doing. You've got several thousand people following the Kickstarter page, and it looks like it's doing really well. So I'm excited to dig into what you've done to prepare and kind of the road and your journey to get to this point. So before we jump into those details, I'd love to learn a little bit about you guys, who you are, and what brings you to the world of board game design.
Yeah. So, well, we love board games. We have for many years, and I guess it started when we were reading a book series called the Green Ember series to our kids. It's really great, and I was just thinking how great it would be if we had been able to do something like that for our kids, something that we could make and enjoy with them. And so that's where it started. We have chickens in our backyard, and hey, there's a game here.
Nice. About how long ago was this idea first kind of acted upon?
Probably 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, that's great. I love to give folks kind of an idea of how long it'll take from kind of the idea to the finished product. I don't know if you're like me, where you had an idea for a board game and you're like, okay, cool, I'll get this done and released in a few months and this will be great. And then come to find out it's quite the affair.
Well, I think we kind of started as this is fun and we're just going to work on it, and weren't really thinking of, doing all of this with it. And then through development of the game, I was kind of a hard sell on it. And when I started finding it fun, was like, wait, we could actually do something with this.
Nice. So at what point did you kind of decide that, number one, we're going to kind of take this thing and try to make it a real game, and then number two, we're going to try to actually self-publish this thing and launch it on Kickstarter?
Yeah, it was probably when my wife started liking it. Because nice. I like cooperative games. She doesn't prefer them. She likes to win by herself. So when she actually started having fun playing the cooperative game with me, I was like, okay, this is, it's not just a family member telling me to go on American Idol because I can sing, but it's a real thing.
Nice. And when was the decision made, or how was the decision made to self-publish versus try to pitch to a publisher?
I'd considered pitching to different publishers, but I figured that if I was going to design a game, that I wanted to be able to be involved in every step of the process and be involved with the art direction and the graphic design. And we didn't know what those things were called at the time, but we knew what kind of components we wanted to have, and the quality of the materials and all of that.
Do you guys, do any of you have a background in graphic design or any other kind of skills that would lend themselves to self-publishing?
I'm real good at PowerPoint.
Okay.
I would say Matt's skills are very detail-oriented and a great salesman. So those components, convincing people to get on board and
but no graphic design or artistic background at all.
And that's kind of where we started. Right. We knew we needed somebody to do the art for us.
It's like the mechanisms are good, the game is solid, but it's still really ugly. So I reached out to my, who I think is the best illustrator of all time, Andrew Bosley.
Yes.
And
awesome.
And that's who we have as our illustrator.
That's very cool. So let's pause right there. I do want to jump into the whole Andrew Bosley thing and your experiences working with him. Let's back up a little bit and talk about the game itself. So if you want to kind of give me the elevator pitch of the game itself, what the mechanisms are, and kind of what the theme is about.
Yeah. So Flock Together is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players where every player takes on the role of a different chicken and works together to face off against the invading predators by the end of the third season. So the game comes with 11 different asymmetric playable characters, 10 different villains, super deluxe components, and the 3 main mechanisms in the game are leveling up, asymmetric player powers, and action points.
Cool. And who is kind of the target audience of this game?
So the whole way we've dealt with the process through with like who we target the game at or how we advertise is just, I just kind of assume that I'm a pretty normal guy and people like me want to play the game.
Yeah.
So that could be
Totally.
People who love really long, crunchy games like Twilight Imperium, or even people who've only ever played Catan, people with small kids, and people who just want to play with maybe their spouse.
So it sounds like this game is pretty approachable as far as the weight and the complexity is concerned.
Sure.
I think with it being cooperative, you can kind of shepherd as you go. So that's kind of, our kids, I don't think they could play it on their own. But with us, we can all enjoy a really good time together.
Yeah, it's not a kids game, but it is a game kids can play.
That's a really good point about cooperative games being maybe inherently more accessible than competitive games, because you're able to maybe as a more experienced gamer bring on less experienced folks and guide them along.
Exactly.
And they don't have to feel bad that you're either, not winning on purpose or feel bad for the opposite reason where you just totally crush them because you're better at the game than they are. Right. You're working together. And that's a great point that I never really considered too much, is that cooperative games are just inherently more accessible. I like that.
I will also say there's several setups that we've had a really hard time as many times as we've played it defeating. You had to kind of go at it a few times.
Yeah, it's definitely still
scales.
Yeah. And you can adjust the difficulty and make it incredibly difficult or a little easier depending on your familiarity with games and how much of a challenge you want.
Nice. Let's talk a little bit about the play testing and kind of the design process. How did you find that? How did you leverage, resources and contacts to find play testers? Where did you play test? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So a lot of our play testing we did either in-house or in our network of friends who are all board gamers, who are intelligent and can think well, and are very strong to holding their own opinions, so they're not easily swayed. It's like the game because I'm your friend. And we just played it and kept playing it. Looking to answer questions like, okay, first off, did you have fun? Because the point of games are to have fun when you play them. Did you feel frustrated? Were you ever bored? Was there any exciting moment for you? Do you feel like you got to get maybe a really good combo in? So those are the kind of things we were looking for as we played. And, because we had 11 asymmetric characters, we had to make sure they all played well together, right? So we just play tested a whole bunch.
Nice. Cool. So let's get into the illustrations. So, many of us who are designing and developing and wanting to self-publish board games are not artists and graphic designers. If we were, that would be great. That would solve a lot of problems. We're not all, Ryan Lockett's of the world. So at what point in the process did you decide, okay, we need to hire someone to do the art for this game? How long ago was that? And what was the search like? Did you consider other illustrators besides Andrew?
Yeah. So I had considered other illustrators besides Andrew, but just as backups, right? I knew that I wanted Andrew Bosley, Andrew the Bosley, right? It was probably I probably reached out to him a little more than a year ago, as when we started picking up steam with getting the illustrations in. Originally, so I guess I knew that we needed art when the mechanisms were solid, when the game was good, when I was like, okay, there's nothing that can be improved here directly. We need to start skinning it well. Because I know normally with a lot of small publishers, when you don't have the funds up front, you can kind of get a couple pieces of art done, go to Kickstarter, say, here's my idea, here's what it looks like. But because this is our first game and we know that, we don't have a track record, we need to build some credibility. I was like, okay, I want the game to be done when I bring it to Kickstarter. I want all the art to be done, so I don't have to tell people, see you in 2 years or so. Like, you know, when the project funds, we can tell the factory, click print, and get it on its way.
Nice.
So I emailed Andrew Bosley originally. I was like, hey, I don't know if you work with new creators. I'm making this game about chickens. I think you're the best. I would love to have you be our illustrator. And he was very kind. He was, you know, I do work with new creators, but I'm full for the next year. I'd love to do it, but I just can't right now. So I waited a year and I responded to the email. I was like, hey, it's been a year. Are you free yet? I sent him a meme, and nice. You know, he's like, you know, I'm still pretty full, but I'll work you in. So he was very kind to take us on.
Nice. Very good. That's a lesson in persistence and the power of the follow-up, right?
Yeah, just
you took him at his word.
Know who you want, and just, okay, if you have to wait a year, I'll wait a year. I just want Andrew Bosley.
Yeah, you know the worth of his skills and talent. Also, well, how did the process go working with him? How did you? Because it's interesting. Since I've been doing this series of interviews, I've been going through the process of developing my own game, and right now I'm at the point where I'm getting the illustrations done and working on going through that process. So I'm going to kind of hone in on that a little bit. I'd love to learn about how you first gave him the concepts of the game. Did you give him a lot of details? What did kind of you give him for then him to take that and give you the illustrations back?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to me. Well, there's two things. First, because we didn't know the industry before we created the game, one of our first conversations with him was, do you realize how many illustrations this is going to be?
Because every character, heroes and villains, have 3 stages, and that's an individual piece of art for every character. Over 100 unique illustrations of the game.
Oh wow!
You know, just kind of communicating. This isn't the level most people start at, and so you know, from there, you know, just saying, no, this is actually the game we want to produce, and we're all in.
And he was great to work with. Very helpful to us as helping us along as first timers. You know, one of his first questions was, okay, so who do you have for graphic design? And we're like, what's that? It's like, don't you do that? Or like you do the illustration stuff, isn't that, you know? And so he connected us with our graphic designer, who's amazing, John Merchant. And it's been everyone's been very helpful to us throughout the process, connecting with us with the right people at the right time, giving us the good recommendations for who we should use for different things. And it's worked out really well for us. Yeah.
And so kind of the second thing that surprised me in the process was he really spent a lot of time on world building. As an artist, he was very interested in, how does this function? You know, is there magic? Are there people? What's the history? It was just really, you know, made us really nail down, okay, why are the chickens fighting?
Yeah.
Nice. I think that's the key of working with a great artist that's familiar with the industry versus a good artist, right? The great artist is going to ask you those questions, is going to help you with the world building, is going to know that, hey, you know, maybe these are a lot of components for a first time game creator. Are you sure you want to go this direction? And I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about, is these people who are well known in the industry are worth their weight in gold because they help you with these back end things that you're not always familiar with, especially as a first time creator.
Absolutely.
Was there any other questions that he asked you, or any other kind of prompting that he did to guide the process?
Yeah, he pretty much held our hand through the whole thing. He took on the role of like our art director. You know, he was like, hey, I know how you want the game to function with like the heroes and the villains and stuff like that. And he went through and sketched out like a whole bunch of different layouts that the board could look at. You know, it could be like a top down view, or like the world could be 3D and you could be looking at it from the angle. Or, you know, it's like, so
everything from perspective to light to colors to, I mean, just all sorts
like
of
what color palette do you want to use? And, so one thing, you know, each character leveling up, had, you know, 3 different characters. And originally those were just, either on one play mat. And he was like, well, you have a hard time identifying with your character if you see all 3 of them at once. It's like, okay, we'll do cards then. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but then you have to go back to the box in the middle of your game. Nobody wants to do that. It breaks the experience. And so my wife, you know, she was like, you should spiral bind them. And I was like, that's an awful idea. We don't want to do that. No, it was a great idea. It was genius.
Just let it sit a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. She was right. But, you know, just going through different phases and going back and forth with him about like, how do you create a good experience for people when you play? You know, for like things like, hey, let's try and get all your stuff onto the board. We don't have very little as possible off the board. as far as like cards and things like that.
That's interesting how the illustrations kind of drove some of the component decisions.
Yeah.
And that he helped guide you through that process, which is super interesting. Anything else that surprised you about working with Andrew?
He's a real chill guy.
He's wonderful.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's kind of a celebrity in the space. And I knew he was the best, but he's super down to earth. He's really helpful.
Kind.
He's really, really kind. So even being part of his community, seeing how he works with other projects and stuff like that on his Discord channel and stuff like that, it's been really cool to see as well.
Nice. So great find, Andrew Bosley, and he brought along a great graphic designer as well. Anyone else that you've worked with? Sometimes people hire developers or project managers or marketers. Any kind of other outside help that you've gotten to bring the game to life?
Yeah, I mean, we've been pleased with everyone we've worked with. We've been really blessed by that. Earlier this year, I saw Stone Saga by Brendan, and I saw the video. I was like, that video is fantastic. Who is this guy? I looked him up, Ori Hagen. He's the guy who did our video. And the video, I could not have been more pleased. Is everything I could have hoped for and more.
He was also another one of those people that really helped us hammer out, where do you want this to go long term? What is your business plan? What kind of brand are you building? Which was really helpful as we were in that process of developing the game and what we were going to pull in and leave out.
Yeah, and he helped us with marketing. He was like, hey, he gave us all the resources, like, hey, check out like the crowdfunding nerds with Andrew Lowen, and listen to their podcast, and learn how to tell people about your game and what you have going for it. So I mean, Paula Deming with the how-to video, she's been phenomenal to work with. So from start to finish, in our manufacturer Panda, we've had some great guys there help us out. And so from start to finish, everybody we've worked with has been phenomenal.
And you're very willing to kind of feel out what we don't know and connect us with people that do know that they've worked with in the industry. And I would say even other game producer companies, have reached out and said, have you thought about this? Or could I help you think through this component or part of the process? That's been really exciting.
And to your guys' credit, you are working with some of the best names in the industry, right? So I'll go through this list. Andrew Bosley, John Merchant, Ori Kagan, Andrew Lowen, Paula Deming, Panda Manufacturing. These are like all the top people of what they do. And to have the understanding that these are people that are worth working with, and then to actually go through the process of working with them, you don't, and I don't, and most people don't see that from first-time creators too often. You usually see they need to get through a few projects and kind of understand the industry before they understand that, okay, these are the people I need to go to. And that you've done that right out of the gate is very impressive. And I think it goes to show, hopefully, the watchers that, like I said with Andrew, these people are worth their weight in gold, in that they've been through the process. They've done lots of successful campaigns. They know what it takes. And if you just listen to them, you're probably going to do well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about getting the word out about your game. How did that process start? What have you done to get the word out? How does that look? Do you send people to an email sign up form? Do you send them straight to the Kickstarter page? Let's kind of go through the whole process of marketing the game and getting followers.
So other than listening to the Chronic Figure Nerds podcast and chewing through all that content, after that we kind of took it on ourselves and just ran with it. So I mean, my process, I've been trying to get the word out since maybe about March or April this year.
Okay.
It started with a nice, clean looking preview copy from Panda Manufacturing. And I took it to Dice Tower East, and everybody was blown away by, because everybody there likes games, right? So they know they've seen it all. And so they'd walk by and just stop and look at it, and they'd come over because it was so impressive looking. All the components are. I couldn't make a better game if I tried. Like the components are so deluxe.
Nice.
And people like that, you know. People like looking at pretty games and experience them and feeling the weight of things, and seeing things are double-sided silk screened and wood. And so I haven't done anything to get people's emails. I do have an email list of about maybe upper 700s, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Like 780 or something like that. But that's just because people are interested. I've never asked for someone's email, because I assume people are like me and don't like giving out their emails.
Right.
So, I mean, you can, you know, we have a mailing list with a newsletter we send out every month, and people can sign up for that on our website, or when they join our Facebook group, I say, hey, do you want to sign up for this or not? But I've never run any ads towards collecting emails.
Okay.
And we've run Facebook ads and been to different conventions.
Just trying the BGG ads.
Yeah, we just did some BGG ads starting this last month.
So definitely an uptick in the last month or so, but have been kind of plotting this direction.
Yeah, just like Facebook ads, conventions, and trying to foster a really welcoming and thriving Facebook group.
Okay, so Facebook group for the game as well, and that is that one of your main focuses, like trying to get people into that group and then sharing in the group? And what
so
do you share in the group?
I haven't. Yeah. So I haven't really tried to get people into the group, though I'm totally thrilled. We just passed 1,000 members this week.
Nice.
So as people go to the Kickstarter, the super fans are trying to find out more information. So they invariably, you know, end up at the Facebook group and join in. So those are the people that are really excited, that really want to be involved. So I think, you know, kind of that having to seek it out has really created something cool.
Yeah. And in the ads, I just, you know, all my ads direct toward the pre-launch page.
Okay.
And I just comment in there like, hey, if you want to see more stuff, you know, check out our Facebook group. And I think that's where most people have found us from. Is just seeing in the comments in the ads.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I try and post pretty regularly in there. You know, meaningful content that people would derive value from. I think that's gone a lot towards building up a positive community. So there's been a number of times where we did like just free giveaways. So at conventions, I got Andrew Bosley's art on these like you know, these really high quality 3-inch stickers that are waterproof and stuff. I told people, I've tested it in my kitchen sink. Because I did, you know, and I give them away to people at conventions. And I said to the Facebook, hey, you know, people who see me in real life got some stickers. I'd love to give you guys some too. So just fill out this form, and for free, no shipping, no nothing. I'll just send it anywhere in the world where you are.
Nice.
So I think people really, I mean, people like that kind of thing. Being able to add value to them and to show my appreciation for their involvement in the group.
That's nice. So maybe even more specific, because I know I talk to people who are like, you know, I started a Facebook group for my game, but I just can't think of what to post in there, or I don't want to annoy people with, you know, stupid details that they're not going to care about. So I'd love to kind of dig a little bit deeper into what you post in the group and maybe what you see the best interaction with or the best reactions from people about.
Yeah. So I think it'd be one of three things usually. One being something that's visually striking, you know, and it really helped that we had like a nice copy made. I could, you know, show off components or things like that, or art that Andrew had done. People are excited about like the characters and who they are and what they look like. So I think posting them like that is really good. The second thing is any story components. I think it's common, like us as people, we love good stories. We are in our own story. We take part in other people's stories. And when we play games, you know, we want to join a story. And I mean, games where it's first to 10 points wins are great, but I want to know what's going on. Who am I? Who am I fighting against? You know, so we hired a writer, Lucia Wilson, to do some writing for us for the game, for the characters. And so I think posting, you know, Andrew Bosley's character art with the backstory of the characters, I think is really engaging. I think a third thing would be just like letting people know how you're going above and beyond for them. So like one of the posts that people reacted to a lot was where I laid out all 8 cheeples. Those are the chicken meeples in the game that represent who you are. And I told them, because I hate being the last person to pick a color in the game, getting the color that nobody likes. So I'm putting 8 cheeples in the game. So 5th person still picks from 4 colors. And so I just lined them all up on the player board and just like sent a picture and it's like, hey, which one's your favorite? And told them, hey, I'm including extras because because I'm making the game. I can put extra things in there, even if they cost more money. But
yeah, hey,
yeah, exactly. Right? I can put extra stuff in there, and people like seeing that you're going above and beyond for them to try and give them the best experience that you can.
Nice. Yeah, I love those kind of like opinion generating posts. Like, what is your favorite, or which one would you choose? Because that helps people feel invested. They feel like, or even like as you're developing it, saying, hey, I'm trying to decide between A and B color or A and B, illustration for this particular component. Which one do you guys prefer? And they feel like they have some skin in the game. They feel like maybe even they had some contribution to the success of this thing. And that goes a long way in creating those, like Savanah said, those super fans, right? The people who feel like really invested, they'll follow the game and they'll pay however much money it costs when it's released because they love it so much. And to find ways to foster those types of people, and it sounds like that's what you're doing, is great. You mentioned Facebook ads. So how long have you been running those? What kind of creative are you using for those? And are you running them yourselves, or are you using a third party for that?
Yeah, I'm running it myself. We started, sometime around March or April, and progressively spent more, leading up to launch date. I think in total we probably spent around $10K in ads, and started with like a single square image, and then some carousel ads where it's like a couple images in a row that you can scroll through. We just got a video clip from our videographer that's incredible. We stuck that into one of our ads, and so that's kind of how we've done it.
And who is the videographer you're using?
Ori Kagan.
Oh, that's Ori as well. Okay. Yep. Nice. Awesome. Any other type of, you said you're trying out some BGG ads, any other type of advertising?
Yeah, the 1 month before launch, Mark, we started an ad campaign with them. So used to be featured in like some of their banners and like an email they sent out today, and things like that.
Great. And so of all of the stuff you've done, is there any one method that you feel like stands above the rest as being the most successful, or are they all kind of just contributing little drops in the bucket?
I mean, I guess the 3 main ways we've gotten it out is BGG, Facebook, and conventions. And we've had some really good responses in conventions, and I feel like in general the number of people that sign up at conventions will have a higher turnover rate, like a higher like follow through rate, because they've seen it in real life. And
you've even played it.
Yeah, might have even played it with us. But I mean, Facebook's been great for us. We've probably gotten most of our people from Facebook ads.
The reach there is just phenomenal.
It's great. Yeah.
And I think, one thing, we've updated the ad periodically as it's gotten slower, and just put a new image out there, or, worded it a little differently.
Yeah, or done a new target audience or something like that.
New countries were added as we learned, hey, that would be good to send it to too.
Nice. What kind of conventions did you go to?
So we went to Dice Tower East in Florida, and those guys were fantastic. It was a great time to like meet my heroes in the board game space.
Yeah.
We did Southern Fried Gaming in Atlanta. We just got back from Grand Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we went to Gen Con, and we got a booth for a couple days in the underground tunnel.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I was going to ask, did you get booths at all of these, or just that one?
Yep. We just had a booth there where we just showed off the game, and it was like, hey, if you follow us on Kickstarter just to be notified when we go live, you can take your favorite character sticker with you right now for free.
Nice. Yeah, there you go. Another free giveaways. People can't resist the freebies.
Yeah, and I think people liked it, one, because the stickers were high quality. We weren't giving away junk. Like they're really expensive, and I put all the, like, there's our URL on there, but it's really small. Like you wouldn't even see it unless you look for it, because people don't like feeling like billboards, right? So I was like, hey, it's a real sticker with a real piece of art on it. And if you look really closely, you can see a URL.
Yeah, and I think in the board game space, right, people are going to remember a game that they get the sticker from and they have the art. Even if they don't remember the title, or even if they don't know what the website address is, they're going to see it later. See someone talking about it later, like, oh yeah, that was that cool game I saw at Gen Con or whatever convention. I got the sticker right here. And so I totally agree with that. Like, you don't have to plaster your name or your, QR codes or whatever over all the stuff you're giving out. It's just enough that you connected with someone, you gave them something, and they're probably going to remember you for that. That's very cool. So we're getting close to the Kickstarter launch here. When did you determine the date that you were going to launch? Did you set it very far in advance? Typically, what I hear from folks who I interview is that they set it for one date and then they have to push it back a bunch of times because it ends up taking longer to get ready for it than they thought. What has been your experience?
So because I had my preview copy from Panda back in like the end of June for the Dice Tower conference in July. At that point, I could have gone to Kickstarter, but I wanted to wait because you can't crowdfund without a crowd. So it was just, I had to nail something down. I was like, well, it's a month-long campaign, and I want to end before Thanksgiving, and so it's just like, okay, just gotta put it before there. And I just picked September 12th. And so I didn't really have to move it because,
nice.
Every as far as like the game is concerned, it's already done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's rare that I see creators have a kind of completed game, completed prototype with final art and everything.
It's just how we went about trying to build that credibility.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great move. And then you have something tangible and complete to show people, to show off, to begin the marketing of, hey, this is the game, this is what you're going to get. And I think, like you said, that adds a lot of credibility, that adds a lot of trust. They know, what they see is what they're going to get, which is super helpful in a world of Kickstarters that sometimes overpromise and underdeliver. So I think that was a great move, and it seemed to work out really well for you. One last thing I wanted to cover was just the price of the game and the cost of the game. And this is probably going to be a quick conversation because you have that final component from the manufacturer that you're going to get it manufactured from. You probably have a good idea of what it's going to cost to produce, and then you can kind of come up with the MSRP and the cost to sell it from there. So any kind of thought that went into that as far as, well, maybe we need to remove these components so it gets down to a certain price point?
Oh, man.
This is where Matt's unique characteristics are going to come.
I mean, money's cool, but they print more of it every day. And so, I mean, kind of the same thing with how we went about the art. It's like, oh, well, it's over 100 illustrations. Great. So with the game, so for our campaign, we're doing no stretch goals. Everything's as good as I can make it from pledge number 1. We're not doing any early bird specials. We're not doing any add-ons. No retail deluxe version, only one version of the game, the best one. No expansions on release. All 11 characters, all 10 villains are in the box. I'm not fake withholding any content from anybody and dangling it in front of them until they like share something 1,000 times or something. So I'm just trying to bring the best game I can. Manufacturing-wise, that ended up being really high, probably like triple your average game. And the box is like the weight of my firstborn child, 6.5 pounds. It is heavy. It is a full game. And as far as the price goes, I think if I would have priced it like conventionally, 4 to 5 times landed cost, it would be like over $100. I was like, 79 sounds good. Let's just do 79.
Okay. So you're wanting to get the price point to something that feels comfortable for what you think they're getting in the game and what someone would be willing
your
to
average
pay
the
for
average
it.
Box on your shelf. If it's good, you're probably gonna pay about that much. So I want to try and keep it on the cheaper end because we're not having a cheaper version of the game. But also I think anyone who gets the game will be shocked that we sold it for that much because of how everything is upgraded.
The value is really clear.
Yeah, nothing could have been upgraded more. I tried.
And that's the fun part of this hobby is opening a box and seeing all the cool stuff you get, and feeling the deluxe-ness of it. And that's why deluxe versions of games are so popular. And hey, why not just make the game deluxe from the beginning? You know, there's a lot of publishers that do that. Stonemaier is one that comes to mind, who's just like, what you get is going to be the best version. Why not?
For sure.
So I think that's a great approach. So before we wrap up, let's, as we always do, go over the numbers. So I've got your Kickstarter page up right now. It looks like you got just over 7,300 followers on Kickstarter. What are your socials looking like? How many followers do you have on those?
On our CCal Games business page, we have about 450. Our Facebook group, we passed 1,000 this week. Our email list is about like upper 700s, like 780, somewhere in there. And on BGG, I think maybe like 55 people have hearted us.
Okay, that's good. Great, solid numbers all around, and I can't imagine this isn't going to be a huge success. But it's always how do you guys feel? First of all, at this point,
pretty nervous. Yeah, it's our first time on this side of the Kickstarter curtain.
I would also argue, you're doing some unique things. We're gonna see how that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if everybody is upset that I don't have any stretch goals or not.
I'm pretty excited about it. I think the numbers look great. But I would say you're definitely.
Yeah, I'm cautiously hopeful.
There you go. Yeah, it's hard to be for you never know, right? It's just hard to because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. We don't want to count our chickens before they hatch.
Well, all my eggs are in one basket, so nice. I hope it works.
Oh man, the chicken puns are everywhere in this one.
Yeah, they're impeccable.
All right. Cool. So I'm going to save some of the other questions for after the campaign, talk about kind of some of the things you did while the campaign was going on. And then look forward to celebrating a super successful campaign with you when we follow up with you afterwards. So before we go, any other thoughts or nuggets of wisdom you want to leave our watchers with, knowing that a lot of folks who are watching this are, thinking or hoping to go through this process themselves?
Yeah. My advice, which has been untested until Tuesday, is to produce the kind of game that you would enjoy backing. Make it the kind of process you would enjoy backing. And so that's what we did, and that's what I hope other people will start doing.
And I would add, this is a really generous community. Reach out, learn, look at what's available. The greats in the industry have a lot of free content. And there and read it and learn about it.
And they're surprisingly accessible. Like the few people who I've been nervous to reach out to, thinking, they're hot stuff, they don't want to talk to little old me, always come back with great responses and are super generous and super helpful. So yeah, I totally second that. Great. Well, super helpful, super insightful stuff. I appreciate your time today. I'll be watching intently, following the project. I hope you guys who are watching do as well. So I will have links to all of the stuff where they can follow your game on Kickstarter. If it's already launched and it's over with by the time you watch this, those links should take you to where you can pre-order or purchase the game later on down the road. I look forward to following up with you guys afterwards, and good luck.
Thanks so much, Matt.
And thank you guys for watching this episode. If you like what you see and you want to, first of all, see how these guys do after their campaign is over and hear from other first-time Kickstarter creators and learn from them, be sure to hit the subscribe button on this video, click that little bell icon so you get notified when we have new releases. And we'll see you in part 2 of this series. Bye until then.